We've got an amazingly packed programme today, and in the spirit of the work of IPA, it centres the voices of our children, our young people and our families throughout. We also warmly welcome the voices of current and future partners and organisations which form part of the support landscape in Milton Keynes and Buckinghamshire. While we are looking through the lens of experiences at MK Gallery, these conversations are not limited to our locality or the work that we are specifically seeking to do. We hope that everyone in attendance will find points of relevance and resonance to your own practice, and following this morning, we may all be slightly better equipped to continue to build relationships and grow work which genuinely ensures that our spaces and interactions are grounded in a critical awareness of access and inclusion. And as such, our world is richer, broader, more dynamic and expansive for everyone. So I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping before we launch into the real content. So we'll be together from 11 till 1 with 2 short breaks, and we'll have an optional additional opportunity for questions to some of our contributors at the end of the event. For those who are able to stay online for this, we envisage closing at about 1:10. The question session will be facilitated using the reactions feature in the Zoom toolbar, so attendees can voice their questions directly to us. But for any general queries or questions which arise after the event or that we don't have time to cover today, please do feel free to contact info@mkgallery.org. We'd love to hear from you. As you can see, we have Bsl Interpretation available throughout, and we also have live captions, which can be activated or deactivated using the CC button on your Zoom toolbar. Just a reminder as well that the event is being recorded, so please feel free to turn off your camera at any point if it's more comfortable for you or in order to protect your privacy. That's absolutely fine. And then finally, just to explain that to ensure access to a variety of contributors, you will notice that our event is a patchwork of both live and pre-recorded conversations. And we are incredibly thankful to all of those who've been generous with their time, thoughts, and creativity to give us an honest insight into their experiences. Okay, housekeeping done. So what I'll do before we welcome our first contributors is just tell you a little bit more about the Inclusive Practice in the Arts programme and what it means to MK Gallery. So the programme launched in 2017 and actual delivery started in spring 2018, and it's generously funded by Paul Hamlin Foundation and the Milton Keynes Community Foundation. The IPA programme is delivered by myself with a team of IPA associate artists. Currently, we're working with 15 artists who comprise of individuals with diverse skill sets and backgrounds, each with particular interests or experiences in participatory arts and inclusive working approaches. Their enthusiasm, energy, and art practices are central to the success of IPA, and tailored CPD has supported us all in meeting the demands of what is now a very wide-ranging programme, which responds to both families' access requirements and creative interests in equal balance. And we'll get the opportunity to meet some of this brilliant team as the morning progresses. Project Partners Project Artworks have been central to this work. They are a collective of neurodiverse artists and activists who are based in Hastings and facilitate personalised creative pathways for artists and makers. We've known Project Artworks since 2011, and it's really from this relationship and an admiration of the work that they do that the vision for IPA at MK Gallery grew. We recognised that families with children with additional needs were not accessing the gallery's spaces or programmes, and felt that tailored and bespoke work was required in order to ensure spaces and activities which were comfortable, safe and stimulating to support them in doing so, as fundamentally all galleries should be spaces for all families. We launched IPA with Art and Us, our weekly Sunday workshops, which see families work one-to-one directly with an artist to share creative explorations. Sessions are designed bespoke and see IPA associate artists offering material starting points and sensory catalysts, which aim to propel moments of curiosity, discovery, and wonder, which are then led by each family. The launch of the programme was particularly timely, as in March 2019, we reopened the main gallery building following major expansion, with many new accessible features, including a changing places toilet and double-sized lift. These much-needed facilities are essential and an important part of MK Gallery. But the IPA programme extends from this, recognising that accessibility and inclusion relate to the full human experience. So the need of and the right to a sense of welcome, recognition, respect, and emotional security through all aspects of a visit and a creative experience. Our sessions take place in our event space and in our learning studio, and they're transformed through interventions of projection, installation, and include breakout areas and sensory aids, all designed with the specific families in attendance in mind. No two sessions are ever the same, but they are united by certain philosophies and approaches which seek to ensure authentic participation. They always value play, they embrace non-verbal communication, and advocate for curiosity and creativity across age and level of support need. Right, so rather than telling you an awful lot more here, what I'd like to do now is just show you a short 2-minute welcome film. This is the film that's shared with families as preparation for their first visit to an Art and Us session. This should enable you to see the space and some of the types of activities we get up to together before we start hearing directly from some of our families and our artists. It's probably worth just acknowledging that this was filmed prior to our COVID secure adaptations, which have also been successfully applied recently. So now we will go to that short Art and Us family welcome film. Hi, my name is Bethany. I work at MK Gallery, where every Sunday we have a workshop for families with children with complex needs to come and to work together with an artist to make art and to play. Families book onto the sessions they would like in advance and always get visual guides so they can prepare for what they'll see and who they might meet. Before you visit for the first time, we find out a little bit more about you, your interests and your access requirements, so we can shape sessions which are comfortable and fun. The sessions are delivered by a team of friendly artists who bring plenty of different materials and ideas, but are always happy to respond to however a family is feeling on the day. Sessions always move at a pace and in a direction that suits each family. Some families love messy sensory play and enjoy doughs and foams and bubbles where we mix and pour and mould things. Some families enjoy mark making with paints and inks and different tools. Some families enjoy building and making things with boxes and tubes, playing games and inventing things, moving and making sounds. We get up to all sorts in Art and Us sessions. We always have a sensory breakout area where children and their families can take some time out and enjoy using some sensory aids. There is no pressure at all in these sessions. We always work flexibly with all our families. The gallery has accessible and changing places toilet facilities and a cafe should you need these during your visit. You can find out more on our website mkgallery.org, and we hope to welcome you to these sessions soon. Amazing. Great. So hopefully that's given you more of an insight into the way that we work and the experiences that we hope our families will have with us. In a moment, I'm going to introduce you to our first contributors, the Jones family, Helen, Pete, Archie and Charlie, in live conversation with associate artist Sophie Bennett about their experiences and the impact they feel engaging with IPA activity has had on them over the recent years. So we've been privileged enough to have known this family for 2.5 years since they joined us at Art and Us sessions, and their sense of adventure and energy is always inspiring. We've met them through sensory venue tours, which you'll hear a little bit more about later in the morning, relaxed screenings in our Skyroom auditorium, and they were also one of 2 IPA families in residence in 2018, which saw them create a sensory exhibition in our project space and the most incredible celebratory silent disco in our event space, which they worked with Sophie on. And I should also say that the Westacott family and artist Willow were the second half of this ambitious undertaking, and we'll be meeting both of them shortly as well. And Sophie has been a highly valued member of the team since the programme launched, and her experience has been invaluable in supporting the growth of the programme. So thank you, Sophie and the Jones family.
Great, you guys are unmuted. Brilliant. So, hello, Archie, Charlie, Helen and Pete. Lovely to see you once again on the screen. Hola, you okay? So, Bethany said you've been coming to Art and Us for 2.5 years, which is a really long time. Lovely jumper today, Archie. And when we've chatted before, we've had a look at some photos of some of your different experiences, haven't we?
Yep.
So are you up for looking at a few more photos together?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wondered if maybe you could tell me a little bit about some of those experiences.
Go for it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've got our first photo. I don't know if that could come up on the screen. Here we go. Wow.
Oh, wow.
So this is a really, that's you, yeah. It's a really big painting on the floor, isn't it? And you've all
I
got...
know what it is.
Go on, Archie, tell us what it is.
I think it's a colourful tropical zoo rainbow.
It does look like a rainbow, doesn't it? Do you remember doing
Yes,
it?
it's tropical.
Yeah. And do you remember making it?
Yes, I want to make it again. I want to make it again. That was fun.
Do you think you could do something like that at home, or is that just for the gallery?
No.
But we can.
Gallery.
I want to go back there.
I know, me too. So one of the good things, I guess, is that you can do these really big, messy pieces of work.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't normally be able to do that. Like at home, we wouldn't have the space, or these two just wouldn't let us.
Yeah. So I wonder, let's have a look at the next photo and see what's on that one.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, spraying the wall.
Fun. Yes, and I was wearing my swimming shorts, and I even tried to splash. Get hurt.
So you've got some water pistols in your hands, is that right?
Oh,
Yeah,
I think
water
so,
pistol blast.
Blasting it all over the walls.
It was great fun making the art on the wall with the water guns, because it was something different,
Yeah, I was having fun.
as it was more unconventional, but it was also slightly more fun, as it was more different and more outside.
Amazing. Yeah, cool that you get to do stuff outside as well as inside, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
We built a water slide as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yep, a river water slide.
And the boats went down on the slide.
Oh, amazing. So let's see what the next one is.
I'm so excited.
Oh,
We're dressed up.
you
I
are
got-
dressed up.
We're at a fancy dress party.
It was like that. And do you remember, Archie, when Carlos got everyone to sit on the boat? Well, it was a bench really, but we pretended it was a pirate ship, and then he came and sprayed you with water.
Me?
And then
got
massive
you.
blue felt bits against the sea. It was great fun.
And then he got you to join in and squirting the parents, didn't you? Squirted me and Daddy.
And squirted me once.
And you-
What is that?
Looks so fun. So you're wearing red, green and yellow kind of fluffy things around your necks and your wrists. I wonder, did you think that before you came to Art and Us that doing things like fancy dress would be a type of art?
I wouldn't have thought of it as, but Art and Us and just the art gallery in general has really opened our eyes to the world of art.
We made a mess of Carlos's t-shirt, didn't we?
Yes.
You had to take it off, and it was all so many colours and sprayed it.
Yeah.
In yours,
That's such a lovely thing to say, Charlie, about it being such different experiences and opening your eyes. I love that description. Okay, shall we see what the next one is?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
My best friend in the whole world.
Yes.
The lovely blonde hair and the lovely stripy jumper.
I have got a lovely stripy jumper on today. So
Well, I've
this
got that
picture, and you've got your Mario jumper on. So this picture is very special to me, and I think it's hopefully very special to you as well.
We took that painting.
We did. So this was an exhibition we made based on our family in residence that we did together. Can you tell me what different things you can see in the picture?
I can see pictures of me and Charlie holding the chariots.
The chariots. So the chariot, what were the chariots
That's what I
made
called
from?
They
Nice.
were skateboards, cardboard boxes, and other
I
random
mean, to
bits
this
and bobs.
standy thing we made.
Is that, do you want to hold it up to the screen so we can all see
It's a
it?
bit heavy, so
Wow.
So we made that using plaster
of Paris.
that one.
And just a two, just
And
point to
things.
say, look.
And we made that bridge, didn't we?
That bridge.
That's
That
fun.
bridge was great fun making it. It was a lot of trial and error trying to get it to stay up.
Yeah.
So you really enjoyed the engineering
Yeah,
side of it.
I
didn't you?
really enjoy
To make it work.
engineering, so that was great fun.
And do you think, I wonder if one of the good things about Art and Us is that you get to work as a family.
Yes. Yeah, that was big for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
Rob.
definitely. And I think as well the fact that it definitely caters for Charlie and his needs, as well as Archie, who obviously is the main focus of the sessions. But you know, they make sure that all the artists include Charlie's interests and wants, and also make it fun for the parents as well, which is good for us.
There wasn't much we could do as a family when we first started, and that was an immediate sort of godsend that we could do it so often. And all the artists catered to Charlie and all of us really. And I say we got outside, and yeah, the family side of it really was still is a massive part.
I think as well, because the artists obviously they might have a plan in mind when they start the session, but then depending on how everyone's feeling on the day, it might not go to plan. So quite often it's been a case of change it and adapt it, or let's just go outside and have a run around and do something different outside, or find some leaves, or do something just to break it a bit and then come back in.
Yes, we can put.
Yes.
We can do some more, Dad.
Yeah, but
Is that
This
painting
was from our
behind
exhibition.
you?
That's the painting from the exhibition, which we brought home,
I want to do some.
which
paint.
was great, and now it's
want to
hung
do
up
some-
in
We'll do
our
another one now when we go back.
conservatory.
So it sounds really special that your experiences from Art and Us, you bring them home as well, which is lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot
And
of
I
stuff
just
comes
wondered
on.
about this how did it feel to have an exhibition of your artwork?
I was quite proud that it turned out as well as we'd hoped, and also I really
And as well,
was
having
pleased that it worked.
And having some of your friends or some of our
Yeah.
friends come to the actual opening night, that was really special as well.
And the
wasn't
disco.
Do you remember the disco that we had
Yeah.
afterwards?
it?
Yeah, we did lots of dancing. Oh, well, that was a really great experience for me as well. So, just to finish off, I was wondering if you could describe Art and Us in 1 or 2 words each. What would you say? Archie, can I start? Archie, how would you describe Art and Us in 1 or 2 words?
What do you think of Art and Us?
I think art is the best because I love doing art, and art is the best in the whole wide world. And then we can go back to the art academy and do some art.
Hopefully soon. And then Charlie, what about you? If you could describe it in 1 or 2 words.
amazing, and enjoyful.
Great.
Yeah.
I love enjoyable.
Enjoyable.
And Pete?
Inclusive and fun.
Amazing. And Helen?
Yeah, I'd have to go for fun as well, but also nurturing, I think.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I think we're pretty much, I think, at the end of our time for our chat. That went quickly, didn't it?
Very quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it brought back very good memories.
We've loved it. We've loved being part of Art and Us, so looking forward to when we can go back again.
Yeah.
Me too. Me
Lots
too.
of fun.
So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Thanks,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
That was amazing. Thank you so much to the Jones family. And Archie, I have to agree, art is the best, and we also cannot wait to have you back in our building with us again. I think that conversation just evidences just how meaningful the memories which are made in these sessions are. And the growth of the programme so far has relied totally on our families being that generous with their feedback. And I think for me, this has been one of the true joys of the last few years, building these long-term connections and level of trust with our families as they literally grow alongside the programme. I think it's been the acknowledgement of going on a shared learning journey together, which has actually made it such a rich and developmental experience for the organisation, as well as for our artists and our families. So our next contribution is a creative child-led response to the question, what does art and us mean to you? And this was answered by 3 participants and siblings, Martha, Freddie and Ruby, who when challenged with this question, chose to use a video camera and the sensory resources they have at home to encapsulate the spirit, the movement, the music and the colour of the sessions that they share with us. It might not surprise you when you see it to realise that these guys were the other half of the Silent Disco development team. I do need to give a short warning that the film does contain flashing lights from the very start, and it's just over 2 minutes long. So we'll go and have a look at Freddie, Martha's and Ruby's film now.
Go, go, go. As a kite by oh. Go, go, go. On such a time, that's why. Mrs. Starks. Yeah. Oh, Mrs. Starks. Go, go, go. Oh, Mrs. Starks. Oh, Mrs. Starks. Go, 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 go. Ooh. Go, go, at me, no. Mrs. Stocks, everybody feeds. Go, Pokemon. Go, go, Patricia. Whoa, go, go. Bye. And No. Oh. Gotta be alone on time. Hello guys.
Thank you, Art
Therapy. We got. I'm good. We got.
That was amazing. What a beautiful sensory answer to the question and a stunning example of children and young people's self-led creativity. They filmed it and edited it for you. I was beyond thrilled to receive that contribution, as it's incredibly important that we remember to share Art and Us and families' views in the plurality of ways in which they experience us. So Art and Us sessions do not centre words, they centre sensory encounters and play, and very often non-verbal communication. So thank you again so much to Martha, Freddie and Ruby for your efforts there. Next up, we're going to hear from two of our associate artists who in live conversation with each other will discuss and reflect on what this work means to them. So Willow Mitchell has been an IPA associate artist since the launch of the programme and is infamous in the team for her ability to repurpose everyday objects into playable items. And Amy Lung, who joined us in July 2018, is celebrated for her love of a sensory substance, bouncy balls and tough trays. Thank you, Willow and Amy. Brilliant.
Great. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, hello, I'm Amy.
And my name's Willow. And to guide our short conversation this morning, Amy and I have come up with 3 words that we feel really relate to the material qualities that we seek to embrace in every session, but also in, I guess, in a more broader sense, really reflect the values and the ethos that we weave through the entire programme. So we're hoping that's a good way of giving you some sort of quick fire insight into what we get up to. Amy, do you want to kick us off with the first word?
Of course. So the first word we're going to explore is suspend. So I've got 2 shiny mirror card circles and a lantern made out of acetate and card, and Willow is suspending some tights with colourful embroidery on them, and I believe they've got rice in them.
They have indeed, yeah.
So we were thinking about the word suspend in terms of the environment. Willow, would you like to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like you just said, really, my immediate thoughts when we came up with this word were in connection to the physical environments that we create in the space. So by that, I mean like how we create a space that flexibly adapts through the setups that we work together on. That's before the session even commences. So there's a real significance for us suspending things that might be like objects or materials, shapes, fabrics, anything that maybe bounces, swings, conceals, adds height or divides the space. So what we really, I think you'll agree, Amy, is what we like really seek to do is to create a space that for us as artists and also our families can really sight ourselves within. So that might be an environment that, I don't know, it seeks to hold or contain or be quite immersive or enveloping. Likewise, it could be all about connecting and exchange. So as sort of already been referenced by other speakers already, these sessions are super bespoke. So we're literally creating spaces that are just kind of, I mean, to use the word, like full of suspense before the doors even open. What about you, Amy? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was thinking about the word suspend not only in terms of like physical things, but the idea of like suspending your expectations or an assumption or the predictable way in which a workshop might unfold, or an object might be used or a family might steer the activity. So this has definitely allowed me to discover new ways of making art together, evaluating processes differently, so what constitutes as a success, and in my practice really embrace this idea of like the artist doesn't necessarily know what's going to happen next, and I think that's really, really helpful. As it was mentioned earlier, like things adapt and they flex and they change, and there's an incredible amount of fluidity within the roles that everyone occupies within an art and us session, and that I think allows for more expected, like richer, shared, equalising experiences together. So our next word, Willow.
Yeah, so speaking of fluidity, our next word is stretch. So I am holding up some small discs covered in latex that I'm just pushing my fingers through to create really interesting surface textures. And you'll see Amy has got some homemade Play-Doh, which is a favourite of hers, nice pink shade, that she's just stretching and extending across the screen as I speak. So, Amy, do you want to kick off with stretch? What does that word mean to you?
So stretch definitely relates to all the sort of sensory substances that get used in an art and us session. So they could be doughs or slimes or potions, things with shaving foam and grains. I think it's quite exciting what this material can give to a workshop. So touch, tactility, handling, are all like valid ways of communicating with each other through a material. I also think about stretch in terms of the very many curious combinations of objects that appear in a session. So these could be a cardboard box on some caster wheels, or a shower head attached to a balloon pump, or a bamboo stick with paint brushes stuck on the end, and really stretching the properties of objects to create new things and experiences together. There's a real potential, I think, you'll agree with Willow, there's a real potential of activation when these objects collide, and they form catalysts for open-ended play, and that's definitely sort of helped me in my own practice, and sort of my approach to materials and objects. What do you think, Willow?
Yeah, totally agree, 100%. It's all about the objects as catalysts, isn't it? I would also extend that, and stretch to me really makes me think of us as artists in the space as well. So I guess by that I mean like how responsive and reactive we have to be. It's a really exciting space to be in. We're very much in the moment of the moment, from the moment that we enter the space, like it's happening. I think that's really evident in the way you'll see all the artists like flexing and extending, or even like extruding ideas, but equally ready to, as Helen was saying earlier, completely disregard them, watch them float away because they didn't work. Things unravel, they entwine, and we're really, really quite, I think, adept at changing direction quite quickly. So we're pretty stretchy beings, I think. We're always stepping in and out. I feel very nimble. I always have tired feet at the end of the session. I'm assuming you do too. Yeah, I think we really just value skills of like being really perceptive and aware, and as Bethany has touched on already, being able to recognise material connections and like human connections, often without any verbal cues at all. So yeah, I mean, we just try and watch out for things that take flight and then sort of fly with them quickly. And yeah, so elastic, I'd say we're very elastic. We bounce a lot, we bounce around the space, we bounce ideas off each other, we physically bounce off each other sometimes when we're moving too fast. And we're bouncing in and out of the materials store as well, just responding to things as they take shape. Yeah, so just in terms of our engaged practices, I think you'll agree when I say that that is an extremely valuable tool to have, like within and outside of the Art and Us sessions, and something that Art and Us has really enabled us to invest in and develop as a skill set being part of this programme.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to introduce our last word, Amy?
Yes, so our last word is tangle, and I am holding up a drawing of, it's pink, it's got lots of lines, and it was made by a participant in an Art and Us session, and Willow is holding up a tangle of yarn and string and wool. So we were thinking about the word tangle in relation to the relationships that constitute an Art and Us session and the programme in its wider sense. So I was thinking about it in the ways in which it's organised and the connections between the curator of inclusion, the associate artist group, and of course the families. So how we're all connected through this programme in a network of support. So from the moment we as artists know that we're working with a family, information about preferences and interests is shared, and the family's journey within the programme is intertwined with ours and of course the curators. So through this sheer amount of care and consideration that's put into the programming and planning stage and carries through the delivery, facilitation and evaluation, I feel like it's really enabled me to take creative risks and try new ideas out, just because it is such a nurturing environment in which to work in. I feel like I've really benefited and grown as an artist with the amount of pastoral support given, and the opportunities to learn through CPDs and share knowledge, and really sort of, just equalise structures through being together and through learning with each other. What do you think, Willow?
I totally agree, especially on the learning. I think this sort of structure, the sort of parameters of Art and Us, the way it holds us and enables us it really enables us to embrace the sort of fundamental tangle, which is that of the human relationships in the space at any one time. As we've been touched on already, this is all about people, and that tangle, that shared space, it can be complex. It does need to be really carefully considered, and at times I think you'll agree it can be quite challenging. At any one time we're serving a sort of spectrum of interests, sensory preferences, aspirations, motivations for being there, and of course the access requirements, which does make for an ever-fluxing sort of landscape, and what I always think of is like a really fizzing space. As an artist, that's a really good place to be in. I think anywhere where everything is recognised as a valid creative encounter makes for relationships and a space that are fertile, as you said, equalising, inclusive, enabling, celebratory for all of us. And yeah, I mean, Art and Us is sort of a bunch of loose ends that never gets tied off, but nor do we seek to. It's not linear. I can say that.
Yeah, definitely. And picking up from that point, we're not striving for it to be a linear, straightforward experience either, and in a way that it won't be resolved, and we're not looking for a final end product. It is a constant process of critical reflection around the balance of environment, material objects, and relationships. So really that is, I think, for me and Willow, that is and for all the artists maybe on the programme, that is the greatest challenge and the fundamental strength of the programme, that it is human-centred. And it is just a massive joy to be part of it.
On that note, should we finish with some joy? Okay, ready? It's a joy. Thank you,
everyone.
That's done.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Willow and Amy. I think you encapsulated the artist experience there amazingly. And Willow, in the moment, of the moment, from the moment, I think is our new tagline. That was incredible. And yeah, your final reference to the pure joy of these moments, I think can't be understated. It is, of course, right and fair and an ethical responsibility to operate in truly inclusive ways, but it's also more fun, more joyous and more expansive to involve all people in creativity. It makes us all more creative. We are now going to have a 5-minute break. So please do feel free to switch off your cameras during that time if you prefer to, and we'll join back for part 2 at about 11:55. So we'll see you then. Welcome back. So now, in this second section of today, we're going to move towards looking at the present situation that we sit in, so slightly away from what's happened to date and where we are now. So as we all know, we've had a very challenging year and quite a strange time, and there's been an awful lot of adjustments and things for us to get used to. And I think the impact on families with children with additional needs has been immense. So next, we're going to welcome Sarah Westacott, who is an IPA parent and has very generously agreed to share some of her family's experiences over the last few months with us. So Sarah, thank you very much.
Right, so should I start? If I talk about Freddie initially, Freddie has severe learning disabilities, severe global developmental delay, sensory processing disorder, and he's visually impaired following bilateral cataracts and lens implants when he was 1 year old. That said, he's incredibly kind, very funny, and he's got a huge personality, as you've probably seen from the video clip, and he really, really, really loves people, and people seem to love him. He's got that really good connection. The challenges that COVID and lockdown has brought to him have been quite immense. There's been a change to his normal routine, no school, no outings, no activities. For us, it's been hard trying to explain to him why we can't go and do all the normal things, trying to explain COVID, which is a non-visual thing, is quite hard. And it's hard for most families of children with additional needs. And trying to explain to him why he can't touch people. He's a very tactile person and he likes to touch everything and put everything in his mouth. So that's been quite a challenge, and that's his way of exploring, is touching, feeling, because of his visual and sensory needs. And he usually, when we go out shopping and stuff in the past, he normally seeks out, usually it's the loneliest person in the shop, the old lady that hasn't been hugged for years and years, and he'll go up and he normally holds their hands, and you just see that breakdown of emotion for them, because he seems to seek them out, and that's something that I normally applaud, because he just seems to have this natural ability to find those people. And obviously now we're having to say you can't touch people, so it's really a very confusing time for him, I think. I think it's been hard for him as well to understand displaced members of the family. So suddenly we're all at home working from home and he's not allowed to disturb us. For him, that's hard because normally we go off to work, he goes to school, etc. So that's just simple things like that are quite hard. Missing his peers and his friends has been the biggest thing for Freddie. And obviously his language skills are quite limited, and his attention is even more limited. So things like FaceTime is not a way forward for someone like Freddie. So he really is restricted from that point of view. Face masks and things made it hard for him to understand what people are saying. There's that visual barrier. And for Freddie, he has now gone back to school, thankfully. But his curriculum has changed completely. So his curriculum was based around developing his skills for life and his skills to build up his independence. That has now slightly gone out of the window, because things like going to the shops, buying food, he would do things like that, and they would practice crossing the road safely, getting changed for PE so that he could develop those skills to undress and redress. All that has changed, and I slightly worry about his development and his learning going forward, because those are always skills that we that's what we place importance on for Freddie. Bringing in external providers into the school, charities, etc., to develop the children's skills has also stopped. So music, art and stuff that would have normally sometimes come into the school, that ceased. And I think it's probably harder for the staff that are in school and for the children because it's less interesting. Obviously, all the outings have stopped. So the supermarket, going to the supermarket, going to the library, the post office and things like that have stopped. Freddie's latest excitement has been to occasionally go to Tesco's and occasionally go and buy milk from a vending machine down the road where he can see cows in the field. So it's definitely turned on head. And for us as a family, the challenges have been sort of living with Freddie, who has quite repetitive behaviour, which can sometimes weigh you down. So we ask the same questions again and again, and not being able to get away from that is sometimes quite hard. It's the lack of respite, I suppose, for us as carers. We haven't been able to use the normal carers that we normally would have used because some of them have been shielding, and equally it's just there isn't really anywhere for them to take Freddie, so it's been pretty limited from that point of view. Trying to meet the needs of Freddie's siblings as well, Ruby and Martha, has been quite tricky. Ruby's 17, so during this lockdown she had or didn't have her GCSEs, and the trauma of the ups and downs of how they were going to market, etc., has been quite hard for her. She's 17 and she's missing her friends, and she's missing all those normal life experiences that a 17-year-old should be doing. And then Martha, who's 11, is also missing friends and just doing normal activities that she would normally do. And I think for both of them, this sort of excitement and hope about their future that children of that age would normally have, I think has sadly been taken away and replaced a bit by a more serious level of outlook for their futures, and sort of worry about jobs, exams, and this ever weighing over as threat of COVID, which we're obviously going to have to learn to live with for going forward. As parents, I think it's difficult trying to sort of meet those needs, and you kind of want to make everything better for your children, and COVID is one of those things that we can't make better. So that not being able to answer their questions of when it's all going to be over, when they can see their friends, etc., I think that feeling powerless as parents has been quite difficult. It's been hard for me juggling work. I work full time. Juggling work, school, or homeschooling, and life is being quite hard. I am what is known as a sandwich carer, so I care for also my mum, who's older than me, and Freddie, and I'm in between. That has been hard for us as well because she's far away, and it's that I have to keep jumping in the car and driving miles away to go and see her. And we've kept her in our bubble, so it's meant we haven't been able to have people coming into our house, carers, etc. We've been trying to keep it all minimize the risk. If we just talk about carers as well as a whole, I live in Buckinghamshire, and 1 in 4 of us are carers. And obviously some of those will be carers of children with additional needs like Freddie. In the early stages of the pandemic, I thought that the country as a whole were valuing carers. We had the Thursday night clap for carers, etc. And I think there is an understanding of it, but I think there isn't really an understanding of the unpaid carers, and I think we appreciate paid carers who go into care homes and deliver domiciliary care at home, but I think for those of us who are family members who care for someone within our family, there is still that lack of understanding. Carers still don't have any legal rights, and they're not a protected characteristic. So therefore, I think there's a vacuum of understanding and awareness surrounding us, particularly evident when you're a working carer. So employers still don't fully understand it. We're now in a third lockdown, And I think if I look at other people I know who are carers, we're all juggling work, homeschooling, family life alongside a more intense caring role, which is quite draining. And I think equally for charities and providers who provide services to support our young children with additional needs, it's been a juggle financially for them. And whilst I know that local authorities have been sort of trying to fund some small gaps, I think sadly, I think there's going to be a huge amount of charities that fall by the wayside. And I do worry slightly about when we come out of this, what will the landscape look like for families like ours to access any arts or any activities that are accessible to families like ours. But there have been, I don't want to end on a dismal note, so there have been some positives that I want to sort of tell you about. So for us, during this pandemic, we moved house, which was really stressful, but we've now moved to a bungalow, which we're still adapting to meet Freddie. We're trying to future-proof our lives a bit more, and it has actually helped us. I can see the positives, all being on one level. Freddie loves it. Freddie also now remembers to wash his hands all the time, so his personal hygiene's gone up, and it's given us time together. We have had lots of funny moments. So every Friday night we have a bit of a disco, and we do lots of fun things. So we have had, there's been some really, I've managed to introduce Freddie to Elton John, David Bowie, and Adam the Ants, the classics like that. And he knows who the Prime Minister is. He calls him Joris Bonson. So that's the positives.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing so honestly there the experiences that your family have had. I have been privileged enough to have that Freddie handhold, and I cannot wait to have it again. It's magic. Yeah, it's just a lot to think about there. Thank you so much for your honesty and generosity. We're now going to move on to hear a little bit more about some of the support services available in Milton Keynes. And first up, we've got Alison Baldwin, who is Deputy Outreach Manager at Milton Keynes Council. And Alison's going to give us a brief insight into some of the work of her team and their aspirations for the children that they support. Thank you, Alison.
Morning, everybody. So yeah, I've been invited along to take part in this lovely morning. I've had such a lovely morning so far, especially listening to some of the art that's been going on in those sessions. I love the way that you guys talked about being stretchy and elastic. That's something as a part of the specialist teaching team at Milton Keynes Council is very evident in the work that we do with some of the children that we work directly with. That's my passion, working directly with the children. If I just give you a brief overview of the specialist teaching team at Milton Keynes Council. So within that, there's 3 different groups. One is the actual specialist teachers and inclusion and intervention workers that work directly with schools and early years settings. I used to be in the early years team, so we would regularly be contacted to go in and offer advice and support, directly working with early years, preschools, foundation, primary, up to secondary. During the pandemic, how that's been affected is that we've had to provide that support very much online. So all of our parent training that we delivered face to face has had to be adjusted so that it's been done remotely, such as this, which has had a bit of an impact because a lot of the interaction that we want to have with parents and carers is face to face. It gives you an opportunity to really kind of speak to people, which obviously this is a bit of a barrier for all of us. So that's had a bit of an impact. A positive for that side of our support, the specialist teaching team, that we have done a lot of online training, which has allowed accessibility from parents, because like the speaker before me was talking about respite, that's all gone for most parents, but because it's online, they have been able to join in and take part in that training. We have our local offer, which is our website, which we've had to really fill with lots of resources, guidance. During the pandemic, we've provided online clips on how to make certain resources with the children, which people can watch with their children. Again, it's the accessibility, because some of the children that I work with, doing this and their concentration and their focus attention won't allow them to be. So we've just had to think creatively, like you guys. So yeah, we've got the specialist teaching team, we've got the social, emotional, mental health team that go in with children that may have quite difficult backgrounds, which has also been affected by additional needs on top of that. So quite complex cases. And again, those families have been vulnerable in their own right, because they're quite vulnerable, as in that they're at home and they're not having the opportunity to come into school, which has been quite pressurized on some of the situations that we've dealt with. And then obviously I'm the deputy manager for the outreach team. So we work with children that have got, every child that we work alongside has been issued with an educational healthcare plan. So we offer bespoke packages like you guys do with your workshops. We do that while we're trying to transition them into their next school placement. So it's either a child that's come to us where their school placement has broken down, or it might be that they've moved in to Milton Keynes and now they need to have specialist school provision. So what we found, we had an influx of families from the first lockdown in May. Because of the situation, a lot of the families that would have trickled into the city all of a sudden came to us in September. I think me and my manager done 11 home visits in the first week of going back to school in September after the first lockdown. So, and what I miss is, like you guys, those interactions with the children. We're very fortunate with the outreach team that we still work directly with a handful of children, but we've also had to be creative in the way that we maintain contact with families. So I work with lots of children with autistic spectrum conditions. So it's not been enough just to do online packages. Their ability, that their needs are not able to stay focused for an online lesson. So we've done a lot of doorstop visits where we've created like sensory packs. And our team's worked really well with doing lots of visual support. And I've knocked on a door, obviously social distancing, and delivered like packets of foam or packets of pretend snow, and just maintaining the contact with those parents that are quite vulnerable in themselves, because like the parent that we've just listened to, the stress and the lack of routine and the not understanding what's actually going on for those children is is stressful enough. So it's just kind of thinking creatively as a team. We've managed to, the bespoke package of support that we offer to some of the children includes a farm that some of the children have access to. So we've managed to keep, because it's outside, so it's been user friendly, shall we say. So we've maintained those sessions where we work directly with children there, and we're very lucky that we've also got our own, since speaking to Bethany a couple of years ago when we talked about working together to come up with some sessions for our children, we've got a base, so we've actually got a place that we can take the children to. So again, we've done a combination of both, but it's been a real challenge, and the vulnerability of the families out there when there's a child that does not sleep in the evenings, and the lack of respite because they have not been able to go out to bounce or top jump and just release some of that energy. It's been a challenge for the family and carers that we support. So yeah, that's me. So I suppose looking forward to the future, me and Bethany, about 1.5 2 years ago, we had a meeting about kind of looking at possible sessions that we can do with you guys, because the sensory needs of some of our children, they're either hypo or hyper. The sessions that you were talking about earlier really interest me, and the engagements and the connections that you can have with those children are amazing. If you just have to kind of take their lead sometimes, which was really interesting to hear some of the things that you get up to. So I suppose future planning, it will be kind of looking into how we can incorporate some of those sessions into the bespoke packages that we deliver to some of the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. That was a brilliant insight. Oh, I do apologise. We're swapping interpreters. Thank you, Alison. That was a brilliant insight into some of the services that you provide. We definitely hope to work more closely in the future, and can also, of course, relate to moving services offline for families that it's not working for. And we've recently developed some sensory boxes for that very same reason. So next up, I'm really pleased to welcome Susan Akhtar, who is Chair of the Parents and Carers Alliance Milton Keynes, who are an independent forum for parent carers of children and young people with disabilities or additional needs who live in Milton Keynes. Thank you, Susan.
Right, firstly, hello, and thank you very much for inviting me to this event. It's like Alison, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I'm not an artist by nature, and I was a bit nervous about being out of my comfort zone, to say the least, but you know, it's been a great morning. I'm here really to tell you about PACA MK, which is a Parent and Carers Alliance in Milton Keynes. And also I just do want to share a little bit about my and my little girl's experience of the Art and Us sessions, if that's okay, Bethany. So my name is Susan Akhtar. I'm the chair of forum, as Bethany said, in Milton Keynes, and also a mother to 2 girls, one of whom has SEND needs, so she has autism. So our mission, our statement, is an independent voice representing what matters to families in Milton Keynes. So up and down the country, there's a number of parent carer forums, you know, a huge number of parent care, I forget the exact number, I think it's almost 200. We're all volunteers. We do have some sort of funding from DFE via contact, so we've got some funding for some admin staff, and really we're really passionate about listening to parents and sharing the voice of parents to improve services in Milton Keynes. We're definitely not where I'd like us to be, but we're on a journey and it's going in the right direction, sort of on a positive upward spiral, as I'd like to say. I'm an optimist by nature, so I always like to look at the positive of every situation. So in terms of our parents and membership, if you're not a member, please do join. You can join as a parent, you can join as a professional. We asked our parents last year what was important to them and what really matters to them. The top 3 things we had were not to have to fight all the time, to have a happy, positive future for my child, and to get the right support. Now, our priorities for the coming year are being shaped at the moment, but number 1 on our list is around improving communication. So children with SEN, as we've heard from Sarah this morning as well, have been disproportionately impacted by COVID. So, you know, so we sort of will listen to parents' voice. We don't deal with sort of your personal individual cases as such, but sort of the general themes. So whether that's, you know, concerns around education, as we know, lockdown 3 special schools were you know, not able to take as many children as they were in previous lockdowns. So there was sort of concerns around that. We then shared with the local authority concerns around health. So again, with the lockdown, COVID, etc., children that needed that face-to-face physio, speech and language, that obviously wasn't able to happen. We also are really keen to ensure that there are still some social interactions, and we've tried to do a number of things. So we communicate with the local authority on a fairly regular basis. So the head of SEN, I meet with them sort of every 4 to 6 weeks, or even quicker if we actually need to, something urgent that's come up. So in terms, I mean, we sort of raise issues as a collective. So what we really want to do is hear the parents' voice. So what's working, what's going well, and obviously maintaining that and make sure that stays, as well as looking at things that aren't quite working. So for example, we had an issue last year whereby parents were finding it difficult to sort of contact their caseworker if they've got these EHC plans. So we now have a SEN helpline for parents, a SEN helpline that was created and that's been promoted. As an organisation, we also have our annual SEN festival, which is online this year, which was different, very different. I mean, I love the buzz of the day normally, but it worked really well, and actually accessibility was good for those families that couldn't come out because they're trying to, well, I won't quite call it homeschooling, home learning of some sort for their children, especially those with SEN. It's quite different. We have co-produced an online newsletter with the local authority to send out to parents. So sometimes, I mean, I personally felt when I sort of, came onto this journey that it was a bit of a black hole trying to understand what was going on, and sort of, so the SEN newsletter has got faces as well as names and what individuals actually do in various roles. We do a number of online training courses, and as Alison mentioned, we work quite closely with various individuals to sort of share what parents actually need, what they want, what parents are telling us. So that's happening, but we're also trying to increase, obviously our sort of interactions with parents. So we've had some sort of fun sessions as well. So we had scone making a few weeks ago. We had some Christmas sewing sessions. We also had someone come and talk to parents about how to make their voice heard. So it's some sort of voice work, which was interesting. We attend a lot of meetings, so that's around sort of SEN strategy. We also sit on the local offer group. As Alison mentioned, local offer has got a lot of information, constantly changing, improving, but also the short break voucher meetings in terms of, not short break voucher, short break meetings in terms of what's actually available to parents. So we'll sort of share what's going on in Milton Keynes, obviously to support our parents. In terms of art and us, I will give you my perspective actually, and a little about my daughter as well. So I have a little 9-year-old. Who's on the spectrum, but very verbal, very sort of strong-willed, minded, no filter. So we were lucky enough to attend 2 or 3 of the sessions. Obviously they're incredibly popular. So trying to get our daughter out of the house was a huge challenge. Those Sunday mornings, whilst me and my other daughter were quite keen, we would literally sort of walking with her, dragging her feet to not wanting to then take her coat off, but being met with a very warm welcome from Bethany, which was great, and actually seeing that consistent warm face, which is really positive for her as well. And you know, she would sort of go in and loudly shout, you know, I don't want to be here, you know, take me home, I told you I don't want to come, which was quite embarrassing for me as a parent, but actually, well, you know, I got used to it after a while. You do, if you have a child that hasn't got a filter and says what they think. The artists were great, you know, I was quite conscious about them being offended, but they had quite a lot of experience of working with children with such outbursts and needs. Yeah, I mean, you know, we didn't feel, I mean, as said, families, we can feel judged. We can feel, you know, if the child's making you know, unusual sort of behaviours or sort of voicing their sort of bluntness, so it's quite interesting. So halfway through the sessions, my daughter would get incredibly involved, you know, very unconventional, but the artists were great. So for example, we were looking at making an island and mark making, and she wanted it populated by cats, which is her special interest, which was fine. But then she wanted all the humans locked in a little box in the corner. So the artists went along with that, and she would then refuse to leave, which was interesting because transitions are a bit of a challenge for her. But thankfully, you know, the artists were great, and she was allowed to take something small of the art home, and managed to leave without having too much of an issue. But my daughter's perspective is quite interesting. I actually asked her last night what her thoughts were, and she said, oh, sessions were awesome. There were no rules. The stuff was there to use. There was nothing blocking my creativity. But she said, you know, she's quite precise, but she said, I got creative at 57 minutes, but then I had to rush to finish. And, you know, the artist could make amazing cats exactly as I described. So, you know, we have managed to take her to the gallery whilst we were there to sort of have a look around at some of the other sessions. So that's been fantastic. And I think we really want the sessions, I think, to continue to support the families in Milton Keynes, hopefully online if we possibly can, and actually see far more families benefit from this opportunity to go and actually create art. So yeah, that's all I was going to say. Thank you very much, Bethany. And I really would welcome sort of working with you closer to sort of think about how we can actually provide families more opportunities, because social interaction is a struggle, and sometimes families are, you know, this is their only session of social interaction with somebody outside their home. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Susan. Your service is obviously one that's highly valued, and also brilliant to hear a little bit about your experiences of Art and Us as well. It's brilliant to hear that you find it a non-judgmental space. That's absolutely central to our intentions, and a space with no rules and no blocks. And also, I sometimes get creative at 57 minutes too, sometimes 58. So that was really wonderful to hear. We also hope to work with you more closely in the future, I should say, as well. So next up, and just before our next break, we welcome IPA project partners and friends, Project Artworks. Esther Springett is the Peer Support and Community Networks Coordinator, and Patricia Finnegan is the Creative Program Manager for Children and Young People. Together, they're going to share a little bit more about how their delivery has adapted over the last year, and how they work closely with their artists and families to advocate and connect across support services. Thank you, Esther and Patricia.
I think I'm going to begin the presentation. I'm Patricia. As Bethany mentioned, I'm the Creative Program Manager for Children and Young People with Project Artworks. And as Bethany introduced us at the beginning of the seminar, we're a collective of neurodiverse artists and activists based in Hastings. We partner with many cultural and care sector organisations to share awareness and best practice around creativity for people with complex support needs. We've got a slideshow to accompany our talk this afternoon. I'm going to focus on Art Breaks, our children and young people's programme, which runs alongside the whole of our programme across the board. Many of our young people we've worked with for many years, and some have now progressed onto the adult programme and are developing their artwork in the studios. The first slide mentions just an overview of Art Breaks and the ethos around how we work. During the first lockdown in March 2020, we had to pause our face-to-face programme, which we did a little bit before the national lockdown, and began to speak to all the families that we work with about the best way to stay connected safely during this time. If we go to the next slide, it's a little bit of an overview of how we transitioned into what we called Studio B, which was multiple ways of staying connected through online studios, postal interactions, and in some cases we still were able to meet face-to-face in the community and provide a safe space within our studios. In terms of Art Breaks, we spoke to all the families that we work with about the best way to stay connected. We tried to stay within our main key aims, which are to improve relationships, support emotional well-being, and create empowerment. So within our website, you might notice there's a resource page which focused on updating information around EHCPs and also suitable creative activities, which Esther will talk a little bit more about. We also made regular Zoom meetups for families and carers, which we usually did in person, so parents and carers can share experiences and knowledge in a very sort of non-judgmental environment and learn from each other. If we go on to the next slide, from talking to families, we very much picked up the struggle on finding relevant activities that engage the whole family, as Art Breaks always intended to, at home. So we then created with our artists bespoke boxes for each family, for that individual with those additional needs and their siblings. And then we were able to deliver them in some cases by hand. So there was a social distance wave to the families and a recognition of this familiar face, which just in itself was very special. If we go on to the next slide, it should be some images of the families that shared with us that received those boxes. And I just wanted to share one of the quotes from a parent. We were so excited to receive the boxes, especially as each child got one. The girls have been busy creating side by side in the garden, which never happens. E was focused and really pleased with her rainbow clock, and N sat for the longest time since lockdown began, going full artworks experience. She had to be hosed down at the end, which she enjoyed. It was a really precious moment to have a moment where all the children's needs were met at the same time, and it was really interesting to see how N seemed to know the boxes from you guys. She knew what she wanted to do and all the processes she wanted to do. It was amazing. Thank you so much. We have fortunately been able to start a lot more face-to-face with our young people's programme, which the last slide shows some of the images from our summer programme, where we've restructured everything in a COVID safe way. Just before we pass on to Esther, I just wanted to share a comment from another parent that summarises everything we try to achieve with Art Breaks. Art Breaks is so much more than art in its traditional form. It's about freedom of expression and experience. It's about inclusion at its highest level. It's moved from fitting in to joining in, and the freedom just to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. Could we have the next slide, please? This is an example of our studio setup that Patricia was referring to. Okay, can we have the next slide, thanks? Okay, so I'm Esther. I facilitate our support collective, which was previously known as the Peer Support Network. I'm also a sibling advocate for my sister who has profound and complex support needs. Growing up, we experienced a lot of social exclusion, and having a programme like Art and Us or Art Breaks would have just been amazing for us both. We had to seek it out. Support Collective brings together individuals with lived experience, their families, support workers, carers and representatives from health and social care. We come together to share knowledge, offer mutual support and pull together to find solutions for common problems. Can I have the next slide? So we have taken much of our activity online during lockdown. We've grappled with the technology. You can't loiter at the back of the room next to the tea on Zoom. We're all up front, we've got front row seats. It took a while for us to settle down into this format, but we have a core group which meets monthly online, and we alternate between sessions focused on parent carers for children and young people, and then adult focused sessions just to drill down on some of the detail. Can I have the following slide, please? So as Freddie's mum, Sarah, referred to, and the speaker just before, some of the topics we've been focusing on are around maintaining person-centred care, securing education and healthcare provision during lockdown, managing reduced timetables, and the challenge of working from home and balancing increased care responsibilities, coping with social isolation and anxiety. And if you can actually pin this slideshow so you can see it a bit bigger on your screen, but I put an image here which is a illustration from Books Beyond Words, which are an organisation that creates social stories to help people explain some of the complexities of the pandemic. And this is the kind of resource that we would be discussing and signposting to in some of our meetings. Can I have the following slide? Okay, so I think it emerged quite early on for carers and family members that the government response really wasn't addressing the needs of people with complex needs and learning disability. A lot of our work in supporting families focused on making emergency plans. So, for example, what to do in the case you fell ill or your loved one fell ill. And looking at the role of hospital passports in advocating communication and support needs in the case of a hospital admission. We brokered relationships with our learning disability liaison nurse, introducing her to families as a friendly face and someone they could contact to talk about hospital experiences during COVID. Locating personal protective equipment, testing and vaccination for family carers continues to be an ongoing battle, and our updates from adult social care and the local authority fail to address the needs of family carers receiving independent support through PAs and not registered on the CQC register. Can I have the next slide, please? So through this period, we've had such a window into people's lives. We've zoomed into people's kitchens. We've regularly checked in over the phone each week. And this has really informed the way we want to work with families going forward. Our new programme, Art, Freedom, Care, places the individual at the centre of our programme, their rights and the circle of support around them. So in the next 3 years, we are going to be embarking on intensive support with families connected to our programme. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. So we know that the pandemic has presented a real crisis, but we also know for many family carers, that crisis is only too close. Transition from children to adult services, the cliff edge sometimes that's being described as what happens at the end of a school placement or college. It's really shone a spotlight, and families are starting to think more about the future. And so one way in which we are going to support families through Project Artworks is to create something called a PATH, which stands for Planning Alternative Tomorrows with Hope. And it's a graphic visualization tool which helps people to set long-term goals around life, community, work, education, and break it down into manageable steps to navigate some of the complex decisions to be made around health and social care. We're also working quite closely with a legal specialist, because we know that increasingly so, it's the rights of family carers and individuals with complex support needs that are being slowly eroded through the pandemic. And that's what we want to put at the centre of our programme. So we offer peer advocacy and representation during meetings. Okay, can I have the final slide, please? So Bethany asked me today to maybe have a little look at what my other organisations and institutions do in terms of developing networks with parent carers and neurodiverse communities. And I think it's really important to think about what platform you have and where your influence is, and how you as arts organisations have the responsibility of making the invisible visible. It's about building relationships and understanding with your communities. Family carers are all too familiar with the sort of fight and flight conflictual relationships with statutory bodies and local authorities, and sometimes offering a mutual space and a neutral space like a gallery sets the scene for hope and aspiration and for real conversations to ensue. So it's yeah, a fantastic privilege to be part of this morning, and I'm going to hand back over to Bethany.
Brilliant. Esther and Patricia, thank you so much. It's been brilliant working with your team over the last few years, and your programmes and work with families in terms of support and advocacy more widely, cross-sectorally, continues to inspire the growth of IPA. And your reference there to our responsibility to making the invisible visible is something I think that we are really striving to centre in the growth of the programme going forward. So next up, we have another break. You probably noticed we are considerably over time, running considerably over time. So perhaps if we could invite you back at about 1:45, and yeah, we'll make it a very short break. And I would also like to reassure you that we are recording this event and it will be shared after the event. So if you are finding that we run over to an extent where you need to leave us, that's absolutely fine. You won't miss out on anything. Okay, we'll see you shortly. Great, welcome back. Okay, so for the final section of today, we're going to shift our focus again, this time towards the future and some of the aspirations of the IPA programme. As a team, we seek to keep growing our programme alongside our families as they grow up, and as such to consider ways to develop programme activity which invites participation from young people more independently from their family groups, supporting them in exploring the development of their own independent artistic practices and in leading on shaping and direct delivery of activity at MK Gallery. So, first up in this section, I'm really pleased to welcome Hannah Shelton. She is a physiotherapist from the PACE Centre in Aylesbury, and PACE is a family-centred charity that provides innovative education for children and young people with sensory motor disorders. We're really keen to work more closely with PACE going forward, and Hannah's going to share a little bit more about who they are and what they aspire to for and with their students. Thank you, Hannah.
Morning, thank you. I'm really honoured to be here this morning to talk a little bit about the PACE Centre and what we do and how we work with children and families. It's I first want to just tell you a little bit about the PACE Centre and where we began. So PACE is a school. It's also an outpatient therapy service for children who come into us just for independent sessions. Our school service is really based around the philosophies of conductive education, which came to be during communist Hungary in the 1940s, where children were not able to access education if they were not able to walk to their school and if they were not able to toilet themselves. So the founder, Petto, looked at that situation and said, you know, this isn't acceptable. We need to work with these children and make sure that they are able to do those things so that they can access education. Obviously, things have moved on a lot since those days, but we maintain quite a lot of the philosophies that Petto originally started out with in the way that we deliver integrated services at PACE schools. So we're different to other schools in the way that we look at education and the way that we integrate therapy services into every session of every day. We want our children to get as many opportunities as possible during the day to practice the skills that they want to work on, to really immerse themselves in what their goals are, what their aspirations are, and the things that they want to achieve. We are very family focused, very child focused service. We talk to our children a lot about what their wants and needs are, what their aspirations are for the future. And the way that we deliver those integrated programs is to look at the learning that we want to offer the children, the experiences that we want them to have, the tools that we use to deliver them. And a big part of the tool that we use is a group. So our children work in groups. We don't take them out for individual therapy sessions. We use the motivation of their peers, and we use that to motivate our children. Motivation, I think, is really key. A child doesn't learn anything if they're not motivated to do so. And so a big piece of what we do is about their actual participation within every activity of every day. And this is where we come on to things like art and music. It's so important that a child is able to understand why they need to be able to do something, why they want to be able to do something. So I, as a physiotherapist, my training took me through learning anatomy and physiology, how muscles work, how bone structures influence how we move, and that's fantastic. If we look at the International Classification of Function System from the World Health Organization, we look at body structures and functions. Then I, as a physiotherapist, would look at activities of daily living. What does a child need to be able to do within their life? What do they want to be able to do? But we need to take that to the next level of participation. We need to look at what makes our children's hearts sing. We need to look at what motivates them to move, what motivates them to learn, and how we can put that into their everyday. That motivation is absolutely key to their success in achieving their goals. It's absolutely key to them having fun. It's absolutely key to them progressing to where they want to be and achieving and being successful in their lives. So I think COVID has had a massive impact on our families. We've heard from people today that have told us so clearly how families have struggled throughout this pandemic. And we have, like others, been able to enter a little bit more deeply into the lives of our families. And one thing, I mean, I have seen a lot of strengths that have come out of this, and I think it's really interesting to look at those. We've seen children, through the services that we offer virtually, we've seen children able to interact with their siblings, sometimes for the first time. And I cannot express how that makes my heart sing. I can't tell you how passionate that makes me about what we do and how keen I am for those things to improve and for those experiences to become the everyday and not the special occasion. families need to build memories. Families need those positive experiences. Life can be tough, and any way that we can try and influence families to have that joy, to create those memories and those positive experiences, has to be at the forefront and at the key of what we do. And I've seen families gain so many skills, you know, having to deal with everything that they've had to deal with is just phenomenal. And I can't thank our families enough for the dedication that they have shown towards their children and towards the therapies and their education. It has been absolutely phenomenal. But where I see services like this coming into play, and I would love to see more and more things like this happening, because it all focuses around that participation, that joy of life, that real love of life, and making our children's hearts sing, making those children's experiences integral to their families is just so important. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's been a phenomenal learning experience for me. I've loved hearing about everybody's different experiences and what people are offering out there. And I hope that in the future we can combine more with services such as this and really make that extra layer of motivation for our kids.
Thank you, Hannah. That was really, really wonderful. Yeah, as I said, we're incredibly keen to work more closely with you, and your reference to the joy of life and the love of life. Yeah, let's do it. Next up, we're really honoured that one of Artanas's oldest participants, Alicia, has shared some of her thoughts with us in relation to activity for young people in Milton Keynes. So Alicia very kindly filmed this for us, but a few technical difficulties mean that I'm actually going to read some of her words for you. So when asked whether Alicia felt she had enough opportunities in Milton Keynes to spend time with her friends and meet new friends doing different activities in different spaces, she tells us, I'm not sure. I meet with my friends on Tuesday at my youth club, and sometimes I go to my friend TP's house for playdates. Some of my friends go to the city centre, but my mum won't let me as she thinks I won't be safe and I need an adult with me in case I get lost or poorly. I go to youth club on Tuesday, and I play tennis on a Saturday, which is for kids who are blind or wear glasses. There are 6 of us. And I go to art and craft club with Lacey, and we have lots of fun. Carlos is very funny. And I do cooking club, but it's closed at the moment. Carlos is one of our associate artists. Little name drop for him. And then I asked Alicia, if we were inventing a new experience for teenagers to come to at the gallery, to enjoy spending time together independently, what would you tell us to do? What would your dream activity be? And Alicia tells us that she'd like music, so we can sing and dance, a craft table, so she can colour, make stuff, and some cooking. She says, and I think boys would like games like Xbox. She did country dancing at school, and this was fun. And she'd also like a cinema for teenagers, as she likes to watch Disney Zombies and Descendants because they have teenagers in them. Alicia then finished by giving one piece of advice to all the people in Milton Keynes who plan spaces and activities for teenagers to help that they make sure they feel welcoming and fun. And she says, I think I would like them to build lots of places for teenagers so we can go there. And I would like to go to a club every day to do things so that we are safe and inside when it's cold. Thank you, Alicia, so much for sharing your views there. And I do hope and plan that as we continue to grow some of this work with our young people, that we can work closely with you and your peers to shape it up in a really meaningful and responsive way. So next, we're going to hear from another of our own participants. And this is in line with our interest in supported studio models for young artists to develop their own artistic practices. Artanas participant Sarah Wells kindly agreed to share her own independent artwork with us in conversation with IPA associate artist Alice Boland-Rhodes. In her words, Sarah is a 14-year-old digital artist with a little splash of creativity and an interest in creating original characters and disfigured monsters with their own backstories. So we'll join Sarah and Alice for a very small section of a longer conversation that they recorded for us on Zoom. It's all about Sarah's wonderful creative process, and during it you will briefly see 3 of her amazing digital artworks.
So we've got the next few minutes to talk about your work, Sarah, which is absolutely amazing and wonderful and inspiring. And I really love your style that you bring to your artwork. Can you tell us a bit more about your style?
Okay. When I started out, I originally wanted to draw like, you know, those American comics like DC. I wanted to have an art style like that because I was really into DC at the time. But as I grew up, I wanted more of an anime style, and now I've got more of a chibi anime style. Also, I rarely draw feet. Sometimes I draw shoes, but feet tend to just be really complicated. So with the shoes that I've got on this drawing, that's how it tends to be. They tend to have quite long triangle feet, like sort of like this. I'm just making this symbol with my mouse. And the hands, though, I do try and make them realistic. I feel like it'd be quite hard to do it in a blocky style, and it would kind of make it more complicated rather than more simplified. And with the faces, I tend not to do a detailed nose. It's usually just a line. With the mouths, they're sort of like anime mouths, but I don't do like dots or just simple lines. It tends to be like actually more of a cartoon mouth. The eyes I can show on Chris.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, if you'd like to share this one. Yeah, would you like to tell us a little bit about this work, and then tell us about how you got to those eyes and drew those eyes.
Okay, so with the eyes, they're sort of a combination of cartoon eyes and anime eyes, because they've got the overall shape of cartoon eyes, I think. But I didn't want it to just be dots, or dots with like a simple color around them. I wanted them to be more detailed. So this is a non-shaded drawing, but in most of my drawings, I make the eyes more detailed. So I do shading in the upper eye and then highlights in the lower eye. And I can't really show anything of it right now, but usually it comes out looking quite good, in my opinion.
Okay, so how do you think, from when you first started, when you said you were drawing those like the comic book style, to where you are now in your artwork now, how much has it changed?
Quite a significant bit it's changed. It wasn't like a American comic thing or anything. It was me wanting to be like that, but it really wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, you have got a really specific style. We absolutely, we love your style. It's so fantastic and so expressive. And I know you've got lots of characters. Would you like to share one of your characters with us? Tell me about how the role playing influences your art and that inspiration connection.
So I think the reason is partly because I developed more of a attachment to these characters, and partly I know them more and I know what to make their expressions, because I know what they would do. And also it really helps me with the design, because it's really useful to write stuff down so that you can visualize it rather than just going ahead and drawing it, like right off the top of your head.
I've just seen a comment there that says amazing artwork, and I'm pretty sure that everybody in attendance will agree. Sarah's self-taught digital art skills are really, really inspiring. And as we move again towards developing more work in support of young artists, we very much hope to have Sarah's input on this. After chatting, Sarah also added that she thinks the main thing that young artists need is creative freedom. Then it's easier to develop and everything you create is your art. So again, creative freedom is central to our plans. Next up, we have another pre-recorded contribution for you. It's a conversation between Associate Artist Julia Collar, Stephen Carruthers, who is Director of Learning and Quality at MK Snap, and MK Snap learner Stefan. MK Snap are a local charity based in Milton Keynes who are experienced in working with individuals with learning disabilities and specialist needs. Back in 2019, Stefan and two peers from Snap worked with Julia to develop and deliver a sensory tour of our George Stubbs exhibition to the public. Sensory tours are part of our programme, which have grown directly from Art and Us and really aim to invite and to ignite the same level of play and sensory exploration within our gallery spaces. Stefan and Julia's project was an amazing example of co-production, and they'll tell you a little bit more about it now and reflect on what our next steps may be together. So thank you, Julia, Stefan and Stephen.
Stefan, do you want to tell us about what it was like putting the tour together and leading it on the day?
At first, it was a little nerve-wracking because of where it was a new kind of experience before, and practicing as we went along, it was getting a lot easier and more calming and more fun to be showing the people the different artwork, what to say, remembering the details in your head as you go along about the particular paintings. So yeah, it was very good in the end.
What was your favourite bit of sensory stuff that we had?
Oh, my favourite, I think it would have to be the horn. It'd be the horn.
That was good fun, wasn't it? We had 3 vintage post horns that you guys learnt to play, but then we invited people on the tour to have a go as well, and it was hard, wasn't it? They were not easy to get a sound out of.
Oh no, they sound terrible when I tried it.
But how good did they sound in that gallery space with all that sort of high ceiling and the echo, and people from other rooms thinking, what is that noise? That was good fun.
I thought what was really good, Stefan and Julia, was the fact that it built on their confidence, Stefan's and the other learners that were doing the tours. But also they really dived into learning about the paintings, the stories behind them and the work. And it was really, really lovely to see. And I'm incredibly proud of all of them for achieving that. They did great.
It was, and it really focused in on details in the painting that people might not otherwise have spotted, like the teacup that we had that sort of resonated with the teacup on the table, and thinking about what kind of tea people would have drunk and the smell of that. It's just those little bits and pieces. You might just see the family in the picture, but when you think about the teacup and how that feels and the smell of it and what it was like to be in that sea, I think that just adds another layer on top of it. And it was great that you guys were so good at sort of picking out those tiny little bits, like the vein on the horse and how that would feel if you could touch it. It was just really remarkable to sort of see paintings through through your eyes, and to give people that experience as well. You can see something very big and grand and think it's very worthy, but when you start to see those little details, it just makes it really present and something you can really get involved with.
Exactly.
What would you like to do next? So we've done a sensory tour with this big exhibition. Where would you like to take that next?
It was a huge honour, actually, to be involved and being involved in the tours. And I suppose what would be really fantastic is potentially some of the learners exhibiting some of their own work, and potentially doing tours of their own work and things that they're interested in and what they're thinking about and their thoughts, feelings and emotions. But I felt like we can build on that and definitely involve more learners and hope and see where that goes. But I think the potential is massive in terms of where we can go and what we could do.
Completely agree. I love the idea of enabling people to meet the artist behind a picture. That doesn't happen very often, particularly with things like George Stubbs, because obviously he's a long time gone. But to be able to meet the artist and talk about how they made that piece of work and show their techniques, there's something really sensory about that, as well as giving people an opportunity to experience other sensory experiences that may kind of come off it. I think there's something really important there as well. Stefan, you were talking about maybe doing it online, sort of doing, obviously times of COVID, sort of having some digital artwork and a virtual tour around it where people could maybe pick up some bits and pieces from home to enable them to connect with your artwork, because you guys produce such a prolific amount of creativity from MK Snap. You have kind of 3D stuff, you're doing paintings, you're working with fabrics. There's just so much sensory stuff there that could be shared with everybody in the community, from very young children through to older people, who could really get hands-on with what it is that you produce.
Exactly, because how everything is with the pandemic, that the majority of places are shut, so that people aren't really able to physically give a tour with different paintings that they show. So doing a virtual tour would be a very possible and really good idea, just so that people will still have the opportunity to look at the paintings, because I think paintings really give like life, meaning, and understanding, and also motivation to other people.
Thank you so much, Julia, Stefan and Stephen. I hope everyone got a sense from that chat just how incredible those tours were. And I think that was a really profound way to end from Stefan, that paintings give life meaning. And as I said, we're really keen to continue our work with MK Snap in the future. So thank you. And now we reach our finale, what will probably be quite a short additional question section. And this final celebratory session is an example of the joy and magic that is possible through collaboration and co-creativity. So we return to Artenas with participants Belle and Georgina, who we've had the great pleasure of knowing for 2 years, working with Willow to deliver their own creative workshop, the Bubble Bash. Willow and Belle will guide you through the process of making a bubble blower and extending it into their own inventions. And we really hope this will capture the spirit of our sessions for you and leave you with a new and valuable skill. I'm just too excited. If you have the materials, you're very warmly invited to make along, but please do take care near your electronic devices and support children. So thank you, Willow, Belle and Georgina.
Okay.
Fantastic. Great. Right, Belle, first of all, can I just say, I noticed your moustache earlier, so I did one. So, yes, so welcome to our Bubble Bash. This is as Bethany said, a workshop that me and Belle and Georgina devised together a few weeks ago. And Belle, shall I give you a little introduction and then you can start showing the materials that people are going to need if they make along? So Belle and I were having a chat. We've done a lot of sessions together. We know Art and Us inside out, and we've definitely noticed that a lot of families enjoy blowing bubbles with us. And something really particular, well, it's about all our families, but something especially related to Belle and Georgina is an absolute love, Belle, correct me if I'm wrong, but a love of building, experimenting, and testing big ideas. So with that in mind, we've developed this workshop and we hope it teaches you everything you need to know to get involved. So Belle, should we remind everyone first of all what they need if they are going to make along with us?
Yes.
What have we got? You've got a lot in front of you, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got lots.
You will need a bottle of any type,
Yeah.
except for milk.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
Didn't work, did it?
Yeah. So we don't want glass either, do we? So it's plastic bottles.
Yeah.
What do we need to do to the end, Belle?
What do we need to do to it? Show us that one.
You need to cut it.
You need to cut it, yeah. And what's our top tip for doing that? Do you remember?
You either if you need help with cutting it, ask the grown up for the help with cutting so you don't hurt yourself.
Good, yeah, good tip. And take it slow because we've got time. So I'm going to cut mine. There we go. Okay, so bottle and cut off, no lid. What next, Belle?
You will need like either a tight or a sock.
Absolutely. And another top tip for these, ideally socks without holes in, and it's even better if they're clean. I've got one of Bethany's that I actually borrowed again, Belle. The other one that I didn't use last time, so keeping it as a pair.
Socks.
Yeah. So a nice sock, yeah. I like to keep mine for wearing, so I thought I'd use Bethany's. What do we need next, Belle?
Then you will need some rubber bands.
Yes, great.
We've been using 2 on our experiment ones sometimes.
Yeah, it's good to secure it sometimes, isn't it, for the big experiments. You could also use hairbands as well, couldn't you? If you don't have elastic bands, you could use hairbands. And what else? We've got the old wet stuff.
What about this stuff this side?
And you would need washing up liquid.
Some washing, just a squirt, isn't it? It's not a whole bottle. Not a whole bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a serious bubble bash. Yeah. Bowls, yeah. I've got 2 here, just to make sure I can catch all our bubbles.
We've got a big one.
Nice work. And
some water.
Some water. Yeah, great start. So we've got what we need. Hopefully some others are going to make along with us. So should we start, Belle, by showing how to make the bubble blower, and then we'll show what the bubble blower does. Yeah? Okay, so step 1.
Bottle.
You'll need your cut bottle.
Yep.
And your sock.
Yep.
And you might need help with this.
You might.
Gonna help me get.
We're a team, aren't we?
Hold the bottle still. You need to roll up your sock like this.
Yeah, good point. I haven't done that.
Try to push it onto the bottle.
Yeah. So it's as if you haven't. It's as if your bottle's your foot, isn't it? Yeah. You're just sliding it on. Yeah. Okay.
Then you can just say straighten it up how you want it.
And then you just make it all tight at the top.
Yeah. Because it makes a funny plasticky noise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you're pulling it. So you've got your sock toe and you're just pulling it down, so you've got a nice sort of flat surface at the end of your bottle. And lots of sock here, isn't there? It doesn't matter.
Sometimes it is a bit long, so you can cut your sock if you need to.
You can. Yeah, you can.
You can fold it back.
Or you can fold it back.
Yeah. Do you know, as this is Bethany's, I think I'll fold it back. Okay. And what do we do to secure our sock so it doesn't pop off?
You might need 2 rubber bands, you might need 1.
Yeah.
We will probably use 2 for this one.
Okay.
So, and you'll just wrap it around. I'm going to do this bit first.
Oh, well, we're going to do that end first.
Because that's the end most important.
Okay.
Wrap it around the box where the sock is.
Yep. Done that. Okay.
And if your sock's too big, you can roll it up.
You can always roll it, can't you?
You're going to put another one
on? No, I don't.
No? Okay, so this one only needs one.
Perfect. Okay. So that's your bubble blower made, isn't it? But we now need a bit of bubble mix. So if we set our blower aside for a moment, then we're going to need our first bowl, aren't we?
Yeah.
I've got a nice clear one so everyone can see how much liquid we're putting in. You have 2. Yep. Nice thinking. So have you got your washing up liquid, Belle?
Yes.
So should we show them how much we're going to squirt into the bottom of our bowl?
Yeah.
Mine's nearly run out, so I'm going to have to shake it, Belle.
You're all right. Turn it up.
You've got a fresh one, haven't you? You've got a nice green one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to do a little bit of a dollop, aren't we? Just a little squirt, just like as if you're doing a small bowl of washing up, really. You can always add more, can't you?
Okay. Yeah. Right, shall we show them the bottom of the bowl? We got bubbles.
Already, that's a good start. So it's just a splash, isn't it? Just a dollop. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And perfect. Yeah. Perfect.
And then
water.
Just add the water.
Yeah. And how much do we need, Elle? Not too much, is it?
Yeah, about 6.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe half of what I've got in my jug, I'd say. So we're going to add that onto our bubbles. And at this point, Belle, top tip, do it away from your laptop, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do it away. So I'm going to just slide back.
We've learned ours is quite far away this time.
I noticed, yeah, good call. So half in. Oh, and things are about to get bubbly, aren't they, Belle?
Yeah.
The bash is about to commence.
Okay.
Okay, so.
What do you do next?
You might want to mix it a bit.
Yeah, we could always mix it, couldn't we? With a finger. You don't have to, but you can, can't you? Do you know, I might mix mine just with my dunking my sock in and giving it a whiz round. So those of you making along, you've got your mix and you've got your blower. Belle's giving her bubbles a mix with her spatula, and then we're just going to dunk in our sock end into the mix. Give it a little bit of time to get slightly, well, quite moist, not too drippy though. You can always add more, can't you, Belle?
Yeah.
And then, you know what? I'm going to put my bowl down, I think.
We're going to swap bowls, I think.
Yes, so this is good call, Georgina. This is where the second bowl comes in, isn't it? Especially if you're blowing bubbles indoors. Sometimes it's nice to catch them and contain them for use later, isn't it, Belle? So, should we show what happens, Belle, when we blow through the mouth end of our bottle? I hope it works.
Oh, what was your top tip?
Oh,
what
yeah.
do you not do?
Don't breathe in.
Don't suck, just blow. Yeah, absolutely. Do not suck, and don't drink it either. You'll get a bubbly belly, won't you?
God.
Okay, so let's hope it works, Belle.
Keep going. Wow.
Oh, mine's getting long, Belle.
You need to be higher.
So, as you can see, oh, Bethany's making a long. Oh, Amy is as well, fantastic. What you end up with is a very quick, very long sausage of bubbles, which...
We're losing our sausage, hold on.
Yeah, to catch in the bowl, let's do some more sausages, because we're going to need a lot of bubbles for the next bit, aren't we?
Yeah. Go on then, do some more. You maybe need to dip again.
And the good thing is, if you don't cut the sock, you can just wash it and use it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bottle, not so easy.
Belle doesn't like socks, so we're happy to cut them here.
Belle is a barefoot girl, aren't you?
Yeah.
Barefoot flip-flops all the way with Aunt Us. So Belle, I'm getting quite a mountain of bubbles. Are you?
Yeah.
You are indeed, yeah. Shall we take, oh, Bethany is as well. What's your laptop, Bethany? Belle, shall we show some options? Because we know we love an experiment, and it might be nice to encourage everyone else to experiment as well. So do you want to go through a few options for spicing things up a bit?
If you like looking at things and looking at lights, then if you shine a torch on the bubbles, it doesn't really
It shows it reflects.
It reflects and it looks.
It glows a bit, doesn't it? Yeah. what about, Belle, if we tried a few experiments with different sized bottles and different, instead of using a sock? Well, you get yours. Shall I show mine? I tried one with a fruit net.
Oh, yeah.
So onions or oranges net. And Belle, you tried one with different sized bottles as well, didn't you?
We tried one with this type of tights. And we also tried one where it was quite a weak bottle, so it turned out as a triangle.
Yes, and mine, I've got a square end as well. So I'm going to try blowing some bubbles with this quickly. See if we get some different size or shape bubbles. Oh, they're bigger. It takes more puffer, doesn't it?
You want me to try that one? You do that.
It doesn't work as well with that type of tight.
Can you see how mine makes much fatter bubbles, Belle?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, splash.
The triangle kind of.
I don't think the thin tights works very well.
Okay.
Right, the triangle makes smaller ones.
But it's always good to test, isn't it, Belle? It's always good to try things.
Now, your grey sock. Do you want to try that one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, colour might make a difference.
This is a bit of a different shape of a bottle.
Yeah, different shape bottle, this one.
Oh, good call.
We're just adding more water and washing up liquid.
Oh, yeah. Extending your mix, yeah.
Very bubbly.
Oh, we had one more top tip.
Yes.
Kitchen roll or a tea towel.
Nearby, yes.
Yeah.
We should have said that first, shouldn't we? I have got one.
Yeah, we've got kitchen roll.
Yeah.
Oh, this one works well.
And then another top tip, actually, when you're blowing your bubbles, there's a few challenges you could try. How long you can make your sausage or your snake, maybe as tall as you, or you could lie on the floor and do it alongside you. And then Belle, you were going to try doing it on a trampoline, weren't you?
Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, we didn't end up doing it because it was
okay.
really cold. And by the time we got there, all the bubbles we blew
They flew away in the wind, didn't they?
Flew away in the wind.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I was looking at the big bubbles though.
As they blow away. Yeah. And Belle, I think we're probably coming close to the end of our 10 minutes, maybe even over. So shall we show, basically, we've shown everyone how to make lots of bubbles, but what if they don't know what to do with their bubbles when they've made them? We came up with some tools to play with the bubbles, didn't we? So do you want to show us first what you've got? And we should say, these are all made from things we just found at home. So it's really good in lockdown to get things out of the kitchen cupboards or the tight drawer and see what you can make. So, yeah.
So we just got a sieve from the kitchen.
Yeah.
But Belle, what did you make?
This is a bubble basher.
The bubble basher.
The bubble thrower. The bubble swinger.
Yeah.
The bubble catcher, because you can also catch bubbles with it.
We made a bubble net as well, didn't we, with another fruit net. And this is a cake tin. And then a fish slice with some string. So we made that in a flash, didn't we? To finish up, should we quickly demonstrate how your basher works?
Yes.
If you don't mind. Remember, away from the device. And I might try and catch some.
And then you can also catch some by moving it around. I could actually do that again.
Oh, I'm catching one.
I've got some, Belle.
I've got one.
Great work. So it's nice to do this inside if you don't have a garden, but obviously with a bit of preparation if required. If you do have a garden or a nice window, ground floor window maybe, it's a great thing to do going, outside. And obviously when it gets safer to do so, hit the streets with it as well. But that's not quite time for that yet, is it, Belle? So we're making do and mending right now, aren't we?
And it's okay because it's soap, isn't it? So
Yeah, it cleans itself. It's great.
Yes.
Oh, do you want to do one more bash and then we'll say goodbye and thank you?
Do you want to scoop it up with this?
Yeah, do give us one last bubble bash.
Hold on. Right, she's flinging it. Oh, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, a mighty fling.
Extra bubbles. Do you want me to fling it at you?
Yeah, why not, Georgina? Fling it.
Fling it.
Fling it, yeah.
Oh no, we're doing opposites. I've got the bashing job. Go.
Okay.
Whoa,
whoa, yes, yeah. Oh, catch, you got it. Yeah.
It's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's now raining bubbles.
We can see it and we love it. Love it. Do you know what this is? This is art and us, isn't it, Belle?
This is how we evolve with our sessions, don't we, Belle?
Yeah. Fantastic. So, Belle, shall we say goodbye now? Because everyone might be getting a bit hungry for lunch, I think. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us for our bubble bash. We hope you had a bash and we hope you made some bubbles. Do you want to say a final goodbye, Belle?
Goodbye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow. Thank you so much to Willow, Belle and Georgina. I'm sorry, I'll just pause because I've jumped ahead. Thank you so much. That was truly incredible. And you're absolutely right. That was art in us in a moment, I would say. I've got a big bowl of bubbles and I saw a lot of people making along as well, Belle. So you've taught a lot of people a very important skill. Well done. So that brings us towards the close of our main event before we move into what will be a very short extra questions section. But for those of you who do need to head off now, I'll say my sort of thank yous and rounding up before that question section. So I would love to thank every single contributor for your generosity and courage in sharing. It's only with this honest exchange that we can continue to grow work which is informed and relevant to those that it is designed with and for. One key point of reflection which I continually return to is that working in inclusive and accessible ways is better for all people. It enriches experiences, broadens horizons, and is generative and expansive. MK Gallery will continue to learn with and from our audiences with humility and ambition, and we will continue to seek to share this learning so that it can have as wide an impact as possible on all of our programmes and spaces and all of those of our peers. The programme would not have been enabled to grow without the passion and skills of our artist delivery team, the trust, creativity and spirit of our families and participants, and the support of our partners, funders. So thank you. I'd also like to thank Katie and Naomi, our Bsl interpreters, and Jane, who's been producing our live captions, Luke Perry and Tara Sheldon for their technical support as well. So now, if you are able to stay on with us just for one or two questions, please do. Myself, Alison, Esther, Patricia and Susan will be available with me to take questions. And we'd like to invite you to show your interest in sharing one by raising a hand through the reactions in the toolbar, at which point I will get you spotlit and then you'll be enabled to ask your question and direct it to the person that you'd like an answer from. Brilliant. So thank you. Let me get the participants visible so I can see if we've got any interest. We're getting some lovely comments. We can't wait to have you back either. I can see we have actually got a question from Sarah Downing. So Sarah, we'll get you spotlit now. Or actually, sorry, I can see you're actually requesting to ask your question in the chat function. If that's preferable for you, then yes, please do. I can actually see that. That's okay. So Sarah says thank you to everyone. Just waiting for her question to pop up. And also, just as a reminder, while we wait for that, anyone else is very welcome to share a question that comes to mind after the event to info@mkgallery.org. Okay. So, Sarah has asked, is there an opportunity for a therapeutic Zoom type art session for children so as to aid and assist healing? So, Sarah, if I start by speaking from Art and Us perspective very briefly, So art therapy isn't an immediate sort of a central principle of Art and Us, but it is something that we recognise is an additional bonus for some of our families. And you might be aware that we have moved some of our Art and Us sessions online, and we've been facilitating those for our families with children with additional needs. We have found that although they've been very well received by those who have signed up, that actually the nature of online facilitation has been a bit of a struggle for some of our families. And that's precisely why we've now moved towards exploring some sensory boxes. So these rely less so on online facilitation, and our families receive a box of self-led materials, but they're supported by a digital message from some of our artists. So a little message that just kind of maintains connection and conversation and invites them to have a play and a self-led explore of their boxes. I wonder if Alison, you mentioned some online work. I wonder if Alison would mind adding to that answer from her perspective. Thank you, Alison.
Hi, sorry. If you wanted to, again, when you're looking at that kind of therapeutic approach, the best bet is to kind of go and have a look on our local offer to see if there's any. I know that there's I made notes on it earlier, that there's the community. Oh, where's my pad? I wrote a note saying that what's available. The Community Learning MK have online resources available, but I'm not sure what age they are for. I don't know if they're for the older age bracket, but there are resources out there that are offering online sessions, so it might be worth going on to our local offer. So if you go onto Google and just type in MK Council local offer and just have a browse through, there is like a wealth of resources, and there's a wealth of numbers and contact details with regards to that. If it's looking for therapy as well, it might be worth, depending on you going to the paediatrician and kind of speaking to them with regards to if your child's got a diagnosis, they might be able to point you in the right place to kind of look for those that support, because we work very closely with the occupational therapist, which obviously kind of the sensory processing side, but I think you have to have a referral to go there, so it might be worth going to seek this in through a paediatrician or your GP. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Alison. That's brilliant. And I think we've probably got time to sneak in one more question. And I've just seen another one come through on the chat function, which is actually from Anthony, our director at MK Gallery. And Anthony would like to ask Patricia at Project Artworks whether they've been able to run any online workshops or whether they've been able to work in bubbles in the flesh. How have they maintained contact throughout lockdown? So if Patricia or yes, there she is. Thank you, Patricia.
Well, yeah, hi. Throughout the last year, we've done a combination of both those things for our adult programme and our children's programme. We're quite lucky with, as Anthony might know, the space that we have at Project Artworks. We've got a number of studios within a road arch. So we're quite spacious. So we've kind of worked with individual families and responded as much as we can into their needs. So some people have been able to access the studios with their support teams, as in their bubble, and we've set up the studio in a bespoke way to them. Some individuals we've created Zoom studios, so they've worked at home with their support teams there with an artist facilitating via Zoom. And also we've done that the other way around, that the artists have zoomed in to the studio where they've been, so it's like a big screen on the wall as well. So there's a combination of things, and we're continuing to do so really, particularly around January as the rates were very high. We returned to a lot of remote working in that way, and began to introduce that with the children's workshops as well. So again, it's very much kind of bespoke to the individual. We've been talking to families about what works best in terms of timing and space, and working around that. I think throughout the year as well, families have become able to adapt to technology in different ways, whereas in the beginning it just seemed a bit daunting to be staring at a screen. So we've adapted alongside that. So yeah, it's a continuing and a kind of evolving practice around this year of a mixture of Zoom studios, actual in-person bubbles in the studio, and which you mentioned again, creating bespoke packs that people can create and respond to in their own time. So yes, a multitude of responses.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Patricia. And thank you, Anthony and Sarah, for those questions. I think that probably brings us to the end, because we have run over and I'm sure everybody is very hungry. But if I can just say one last absolutely enormous thank you for everybody for their contributions, and to everybody who's joined us and celebrated the work that we do. And we cannot wait to welcome you back in person as soon as possible. Thank you so much. Thank you.